What's up, everyone? This is Dr. Webb here. Just left my first fellowship interview. I think it went well out here in Dallas, Texas. Some tips or things that I've learned as you go along, the further you go along in your medical career, you're applying to medical school, you go on medical school interviews. Residency interviews are a lot different. They're a lot more, I would say they're a lot more, you can have some abrasive interviews, which means some interviewers will things to see how you react. They will ask you a lot of questions, medical questions. They may show your x-ray and say, tell me about this x-ray, or tell me what is the classification for this particular fracture. In orthopedics, they would show you some models and say, like, what's the name of this fracture? How would you fix it? In fellowship interviews, it's a lot more laid back, and they just want to get to know you because these are interviews that the interviewers will be potentially someone you'll be working with for a certain amount of time. And for spine surgery, it's a 1-year fellowship. So you do your 4 years of medical school, 5 years of residency, and then most people do a fellowship, which is they specialize in either spine surgery, which is 1 year, and you're an orthopedic spine surgeon, shoulder and elbow, foot and ankle, pediatrics, oncology, hand surgery. So those are fellowships, and today I had my first one, like I said, and I thought it went well. They asked me some questions like, tell me about yourself, tell me about a difficult case you had during your residency training, or tell me about a very gratifying one. And I told him about a story when I was on call one night in the ER, and a gentleman came into the ER. He was in his 20s. He had just signed a semi-pro football contract, and he came in after a motorcycle accident, and a body was on the bed, and his legs were over in the corner on the bag. And I took him to surgery that night to basically save his life, because they were saying that they didn't think he would make it because he was so unstable in the ER. And over the next couple months, over the next year or so, I stayed in touch with this gentleman just to inspire him, because he was someone who was young, he was African American, and I just felt like I could be an inspiration to him. And he sent me a video, text messaged me a video of him walking with his prosthesis. So that was a very gratifying patient encounter that I had during my residency training. But the rest of the questions were fairly simple. They just wanted to get to know me, asked me parts of my application, asked me about my research. They asked me what am I looking for in a fellowship program. Some other tips for you guys, as far as your dress and appearance. Wear a suit for men that is either black or blue, something very simple. You don't want to stand out. I've seen people on interviews who have like orange suits or brown suits. You don't want to stand out. Have a lot of questions to ask. Ask about their program. What makes your program different from everyone else? What makes it unique? What kind of surgeries do your fellows get exposed to for surgery? But if you're going into like pediatrics or cardiology, you may want to ask some different questions. But just have a lot of questions to ask. Put your phone away. I turned my phone off for the entire day. I did see some applicants that had their phone out on their phone throughout the day. I turned mine off and put it away, and it's the first time I checked it in the last 6 hours or so. We had to be here this morning at 6:30 a.m. It's about 1 p.m. We did some tours of the hospital. We went to their research lab. We had some presentations. We sat in on some case discussions with some other spine surgeons and neurosurgeons. So I thought it was a good day. In terms of my next interview, I will try to keep you guys updated. So I just got to the airport in San Antonio. I'm heading to Detroit, Michigan for my next interview. If you guys haven't, make sure you guys check out TSA PreCheck. And what this does is allows you to go through the security quickly. If the line is long, especially during the interview season, you want to get in and out of the airport. It's about $85 for 5 years, and you can keep on your jacket, you can keep on your shoes. You don't have to take out the laptop out of your bag. So definitely check that out, and we'll see you guys in Michigan. So I'm just leaving my interview in Detroit. I think it went well. One of the things that I learned on this interview is that a lot of the things that you do kind of earlier in your life, such as if you were a teacher or if you were in the military, if you did traveled somewhere in college to Africa or something like that, a lot of those things really come up later in life down your medical career. A lot of questions that I got today were about my military experience, and it's been 10 years since I've been out the military, and I still get questions about it to this day, so it actually helps you stand out. So other things that I kind of picked up on are that they just want to get to know you. They ask you questions about your application. I got a question about what was your most difficult time at residency and how did you overcome that. So I thought that was an easy question. I got a book called Overcoming the Odds, so answering that question was fairly simple, but the interview was pretty laid back. I thought it went well. The fellows, they work really hard. They work a lot of hours. They do about 700 surgeries in that 1 year, so it's a very busy program out in Detroit. I really liked it. But we will see you in my next interview, and I'll give you some more tips. So I have about a week off for my next interview. I'll be heading out to Houston, and I'll be checking in with you guys after the interview there. All right, I just got to Houston for my interview at the largest medical center in the world here. Interviews tomorrow at 6 a.m. A tip for you guys is to visit the location of the interview the night before to get your route that you're going to take. You don't want to rush and try to find your place that you need to go the morning of the interview. You want to have that route already in your head. So just find out where you're going to be going the next morning and just take that route, so it makes it easier, less stressful the morning of the interview. I'll check in with you guys tomorrow. Good morning. It's about 6 a.m. in the morning. I'm supposed to be here around 6:30. Just got to my interview site. I usually try to get here around 30 minutes prior just to make sure that I'm early, and then I'll go review my research and my application before the interview. So like I recommended before, have a blue or black suit, something that does not stand out. This is my suit for today. All right, so I just left my interview here in Houston. I think it went well. Each interview you learn and pick up on new things. A couple things that I learned today. There's a lot of downtime throughout the interview day today, just waiting on the interviews to be ready. So I just talked with some other applicants, talked with the fellows, picked their brains. I did get a question about if I were to Google you, what would I see? And I got kind of scared for a second because I have a lot of stuff online, that I thought about kind of deactivating my accounts before the interviews, and I think that's important for your social media accounts. You don't want to someone to Google your name at like a Facebook or Instagram, and you're partying at the club or doing something that is not very professional. But I think everything I do is pretty professional online, my mentoring. So, and that's what I kind of told him. I said I do a lot of mentoring. I do a lot of helping people kind of reach their goal. So I don't think he Googled me, but that kind of threw me off for a second when he asked me that question. Other questions I got were, why spine surgery? Tell me about your research. So again, generally pretty laid back interviews, and I thought it went well. My next one's in Seattle in 4 days. I think I'll leave in 4 days, so I'll be flying out to Seattle, and I'll check in with you guys there. All right, I just got to Arizona for a layover. I'm heading to Seattle today. Have an interview there tomorrow, and then I have a slight detour in Utah for a spine course, and then heading to Sacramento for another interview. I'll check in with you guys when I get to Seattle. So I just got to Seattle. It's about 6 p.m. I have to be at my interview tomorrow at 6 a.m. Supposed to go until 2 p.m. I will check in after the interview for some more tips for you guys. All right, so I just left my interview here in Seattle. I think it went well. This was probably the most interesting and I would say intense interview out of the ones I've been to so far. Out of the 100 applicants that have applied to this fellowship program, they select about 7 applicants to interview, and I was one of those 7. But when I got to the interview this morning, there were only 2 people there. It was me and another girl. She's an MD, PhD. So I thought that was pretty interesting that they only selected a select few applicants, and I guess there were some weather problems, so the other people couldn't make it. So this is their only interview day. They take 1 fellow per year, but got there around 6 a.m. Like I said, usually try to get there around 30 minutes prior and just review my application, review my research, kind of look up the website of the place that I'm going to, because they're going to ask you, like, why do you want to come here? So I did that, and we went on some tours. We went to a morning conference with some other neurosurgeons. There are 3 neurosurgeons and 1 orthopedic spine surgeon who runs this program. And then they decided to take us on their rounds, which means go see some of the patients that they operated on. And they wanted to show us their pre-op images, which is their x-rays and MRI, CT scans of those patients prior to surgery. Just to see what we think and I guess how we respond to pressure. So they pulled up some MRIs and CT scans and x-rays, and they asked me, what do you think? So of course you have to say, oh, this patient is sagittally imbalanced. They're coronally balanced, but the sagittal balance is off. I like to measure their pelvic incidence and then match that to their lumbar lordosis, and it should be within 10 degrees. I would fuse this patient from the thoracic spine down to the pelvis. I would do it in a stage process, going to the front and doing an anterior lumbar interbody fusion first, and then going posterior to do a posterior interbody fusion. I would be concerned about this, blah, blah, blah. So that's what they expect you to kind of regurgitate. They just want to see how you would respond and how you would basically manage that surgically indicated patient. So that I haven't got that on any other interview so far, so I thought that was pretty interesting, but it wasn't really in a threatening manner, I would say. But the rest of the interview went well, and it ended around 1 p.m. We had lunch, and then the interview kind of concluded. So I'm in Seattle. I don't have another interview until Monday, so I'm actually sticking around here to check out some things today. I did go to the Amazon Go store. This is the only store like this is Amazon, where you can walk in, you can scan your app, and then pick up things off the shelf and just walk out of the store. So I thought that was a pretty interesting concept, and it's here in Seattle. I'm waiting in line just to go check it out, kind of get that experience. But I'll let you guys see it when I get in. So I just picked this drink up off the shelf. It's supposed to pick it up that you picked it up off the shelf, and I'm about to walk out without waiting in line. So I'm about to walk out now with the drink. So pretty cool concept. I just went into the store, walked out with this drink here. Feels like I stole something, but feels kind of weird. But I'll get a receipt to my Amazon Prime account. But that's technology for you right there. I also went to a Starbucks Reserve or brewery here in Seattle. This is, you can get any coffee from all over the world. But this brewery is a really cool place. If you guys are ever in Seattle, definitely check it out. But overall, time here in Seattle went well. Heading to Sacramento next. I will check in when I get to Sacramento. All right, I just got to Sacramento for my interview. This is interview number 5. A tip for you guys is to calculate how much it will cost with a Uber going from the airport to your hotel, and then from your hotel to the interview site. And if it's more than, you know, $20-30, and it's probably cheaper to get a rental car. So that's what I did here, getting a rental car, driving out to my interview. There's a pre-interview dinner tonight with some other applicants to kind of meet the fellows, and then tomorrow morning is the interview. We'll check in with you guys soon. You guys are ever in Sacramento, check out the dive bar where you can see a live mermaid kind of floating around in the fish tank. Definitely check it out if you're ever in Sacramento. Alright, it is 6 a.m. I'm about to head out to the hospital here shortly. Interview starts here in the next hour or so. I will check in after the interview. Alright, just left my interview here in Sacramento. It's probably one of my favorite places that I've been to so far. I'm heading to Utah and 3 days from now to go to a spine course, as well as my next interview is back to Seattle for another program that's in Seattle. So I will check in with you guys when I get to Seattle. Alright, I'm at the airport in Utah. I'm heading to Seattle again for another interview in Seattle. Got to stop in California. I will check in when I get to Seattle. Alright, just leaving my interview here in Seattle, heading back to San Antonio. I have about a week off to my next interview out in San Diego. I will check in once I get to San Diego. Back at the airport again, heading to San Diego for my next interview. I will check in when I get there. Alright, I just got to San Diego. Interviews tomorrow, so I will check in with you guys after the interview. may be wondering, like, how do I get all of this time off to interview and travel? Well, they give us time off during our residency to travel to these interviews. They realize how important it is to further your education, so I get time dedicated to interview during your 4th year of surgery training. So I will check in with you guys after the interview tomorrow. So just leaving my interview here in San Diego, I thought it went well. One more interview out in New York next week, so I have about a week off until my next interview, but that'll be my last one, interview number 8. Here we go. Last interview, going to New York, interview number 8. I will check in once I get to New York. So I just got to New York, about to jump on the metro and then head to my hotel. Alright, just left my interview here at NYU. Really good program. I really like this program. I think you come out a well-trained spine surgeon. But this is it. I did 8 interviews. I got, I think, 12 interview invites. I was unable to make a few of them, and 1 or 2 I just didn't decide to go. But 8 interviews. So what happens next is we go through the match process, which means I rank those 8 programs that I went to from 1 to 8. Say, for instance, NYU is my top program. I would put that as number 1 and then rank the other programs accordingly. The programs do the same. So if they interview 25 applicants, they would rank those 25 applicants from 1 to 25. And if you match up, you put the program number 1, they put you as number 1, that's the program that you go to. So match day is about 6 or 7 weeks away. It's when we find out where we will be doing our fellowship, and that's I remember match day for medical school. It's a very happy day for a lot of us because all of the hard work that we put into it kind of pays off. But I'm looking forward to match day. I will let you guys know where I match. So unfortunately, you have to wait and find out and check out my next video about where I match, and I will give you some other thoughts on the application process, some tips for medical students as well as residents going on interviews. But thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure you subscribe, as I'll be posting new videos every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. I hope that you enjoyed this interview trail with me. I know I have. It was a lot of fun. We traveled to a lot of states, met a lot of new cool people, learned a lot of things along the way. But hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next video. My God is yours.